JJ, first, just what did you notice from Austin in the calf at halftime to make the decision for him not to return?
It's not my decision. Austin clearly felt something, so we did our normal halftime, and then as we were walking out of the locker room, Dr. Sims told me he was out.
I'm sure you'll have to wait for more info, but just any initial concern about him moving forward with that?
I don't have any info.
What did you see overall in the game, kind of starting in that first quarter on the glass and the turnovers and how that prevailed?
Yeah, the two.
Here's what LeBron James actually said about playing in this record-breaking 20th Christmas Day game.
I'd much rather be at home with my family, but I mean, it's a game. This has always been an honor to play it. Obviously, I'm gonna be completely honest. I would like to be home on the couch.
The atmosphere in the Lakers' locker room before tip-off was not the focused calm of a team ready for a prime-time battle. According to multiple independent sources with direct access to the arena's private corridors, it was thick with a tense, simmering anxiety. The team was on a losing skid, and the pressure of the Christmas spotlight was magnifying every crack. The eruption happened during the final team huddle before taking the floor. Sources described LeBron James, usually a composed orchestrator, reaching a breaking point. His voice, normally measured, rose to a level that was clearly audible through the closed door and into the adjacent hallway where arena staff and early arriving media were stationed. One source, an event staffer, described it as more than yelling. It was a raw, blistering critique. The content, as overheard in fragments, was not about a specific play. It was a sweeping indictment of effort and commitment. Phrases like, "Nobody is fucking helping," and "This is supposed to be a privilege. You're playing like it's a punishment," cut through the walls. There was a specific, searing reference to defensive effort. They're scoring every time because you're all just watching. Most damningly, the tirade was not directed at the coaches, but squarely at his teammates. It was the sound of a superstar's patience snapping, transferring the immense weight of the team's failures onto the shoulders of the roster around him. The verbal explosion lasted less than a minute, but left a chilling silence in its wake. When the team finally filed out to the court, their expressions were not of determined warriors, but of shell-shocked soldiers, the king's furious words still ringing in their ears as they stepped into the blinding lights of the national broadcast.
It goes. Yeah, it doesn't matter how I feel. It doesn't matter how I feel.
Why do you think your team was unable to execute the things that it was tasked with?
Because we don't care enough right now. That's the part that bothers you a lot. We don't care enough to do the things that are necessary. We don't care enough to be a professional. It's, we had it. We had it. This is. I always say this about culture. I always say this about the team being a good team.
Watch your favorite team over the course of the year, but Christmas Day is something everybody has teed up.
Hey, Legs, there's no question. It matters a little something extra during the course of a long regular season.
No doubt about it.
Of a 6-game
Armed with the
road trip.
knowledge of the
1-4
pre-game
so far
explosion,
on the trip,
the
including 3
nationally
overtime.
televised game transformed into a stark psychological documentary. The Lakers' performance wasn't just a basketball loss, it was a live, high-definition manifestation of broken morale. The evidence was in every interaction, every camera cut. Teammates played with a palpable hesitation and fear. Passes were safe and predictable, avoiding any risk that might lead to a turnover and further ire. Players looked to the bench after missed shots not for guidance, but as if seeking approval or bracing for criticism. The fluid, joyful Showtime identity was completely absent, replaced by a mechanical, joyless execution. Most telling was the complete lack of on-court communication. During dead balls, there were no huddles, no players gathering to talk it over. LeBron stood isolated, often with his hands on his hips, staring at the scoreboard or the ground, while his teammates dispersed to the free throw line or bench, creating a visible physical and emotional distance. When a young player made a defensive error, there was no encouraging tap, no next play reassurance, just averted eyes and a collective sag of the shoulders. The broadcast commentators, likely unaware of the specifics but expert readers of the game's emotional temperature, picked up on the dysfunction. They just look disconnected, one noted in the third quarter as the deficit grew. There's no spark, no fire. It's like they're going through the motions. That fire had been spent minutes before the game in a locker room tirade that left only ashes and caution on the court. The Christmas Day showcase became a 2-hour exhibition of a team playing not to win, but to avoid the next explosion of blame.
For Amen Thompson, because I really thought that was the big difference in this game. Like, certainly the Rockets outclassed the Lakers athletically. That's something that stood out to basically everyone watching. But when you talk about the Rockets outclassing someone athletically, it starts with Amen Thompson. And I was talking with someone inside the organization during the game, and they made the case to me, and I think they're right, that the Rockets are at their best when Amen is the engine. Now, that's not to say that Amen should be the engine every night, because there's some nights that he's simply not worth that. They're not.
It was tasked with.
Because we don't care enough right now. And that's the part that bothers you a lot. We don't care enough to like do the things that are necessary. We don't care enough to be a professional. It's, you know, we had it. We had it. This is, I always say this about, you know, culture. I always say this about the team being a, you know.
In the immediate wake of the loss and the circulating reports of the meltdown, the Lakers organization was thrust into a crisis with no clear playbook. The incident forced an impossible choice: defend their superstar and risk alienating the roster, or acknowledge a leadership failure and undermine the very foundation of the franchise. The official response was a masterclass in strategic non-denial. Coach Darvin Ham, in his post-game press conference, addressed it with vague, deflective language. Emotions run high. This is an emotional game. We're a passionate group that wants to win. Sometimes that passion comes out in different ways before we channel it on the floor. He neither confirmed nor denied the specifics, instead reframing a potentially toxic outburst as a sign of desirable passion, a classic PR tactic to soften a harsh reality. However, this spin did not resonate in the locker room or with the public. Privately, according to sources, several players felt publicly humiliated and scapegoated. The tirade, delivered on the sport's biggest regular season stage, was seen not as motivational, but as a breach of the locker room's unwritten code. Criticism should be direct, but not demoralizing. It should happen in film sessions, not in pre-game explosions. The incident created a new layer of resentment, dividing the room between those who felt unfairly targeted and those who silently agreed with LeBron's frustrations but disliked the delivery. Publicly, the fan and media reactions split violently. One camp saw it as proof of LeBron's crumbling leadership and misplaced blame. He's the highest paid player, the offensive system, and the de facto GM, argued one prominent analyst. If the product is broken, maybe look at the architect. The other camp defended it as the righteous fury of a champion surrounded by underperformance. Someone had to say it, became a rallying cry online. They are playing like it's a punishment. He's the only one who cares. This divide mirrored the fracture within the team itself, turning the Lakers into a national Rorschach test for leadership styles in modern sports.
It goes.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how I feel. It doesn't matter how I feel.
Why do you think your team was unable to execute the things that it was tasked with?
Because we don't care enough right now. And that's the part that bothers you a lot. We don't care enough to like do the things that are necessary. We don't care enough to be a professional. It's, you know, we had it. We had it. This is I always say this about, you know, culture. I always say this about the team.
Jak ta drużyna może poprawić grę w obronie i zbiórki? Nie wiem, jak powiedziałem, musimy o tym porozmawiać. Pewnie będziesz się czuł niekomfortowo.
In the days that followed, LeBron James's response was not one of clarification or contrition. It was a deafening, deliberate silence. He made no public statement. His social media showed no hint of the storm, featuring only curated family content and business promotions. This silence was a powerful, multi-layered statement. First, it refused to validate the story as worthy of his direct engagement. By not denying it, he allowed the passionate leader narrative pushed by the coach to stand. By not apologizing, he signaled he felt no need to. His silence framed the entire controversy as external noise, irrelevant to the real work ahead. Second, it functioned as a test of loyalty. His non-response forced the organization and his teammates to sit in the uncomfortable reality he had created. Would the front office dare to discipline him? Would any teammate publicly call him out? The silence was a throne room challenge, demonstrating that his power was so absolute he could weather a scandal by simply ignoring it. Most importantly, this strategy poisoned the well for any genuine resolution. A team meeting to clear the air would be futile when the central figure would not acknowledge the incident. Any attempt by coaches to rebuild trust felt hollow when the leader's position was one of unyielding, silent authority. The pre-game tirade had ruptured the team's spirit. The ensuing silence ensured the wound would not heal, but fester. It created an environment where teammates were now managing their interactions with LeBron based on fear and calculation, not trust and shared purpose. The locker room was no longer a sanctuary. It was a tense corporate office where the CEO's mood was the only metric that mattered.
Takeaways from the Rockets' win over the Lakers.
The Lakers haven't played any defense all year. They're ranked 18th now in points allowed. They are the worst three-point defending team in all of basketball. LeBron is now ranked in individual defensive win shares, something you would have dominated. He's ranked 400.
It was tasked with.
Because we don't care enough right now. And that's the part that bothers you a lot. We don't care enough to do the things that are necessary. We don't care enough to be a professional. It's, we had it. We had it. This is, I always say this about, culture. I always say this about the team being a good team being a functioning organism. It can change like that. We don't have.
The Christmas Day tirade and its silent aftermath did not remain an isolated incident. They became the defining inflection point of the Lakers' season, the moment a struggling campaign transformed into a publicly acknowledged crisis of leadership and morale. Every subsequent game is now viewed through the lens of this fracture. A missed defensive rotation isn't just a mistake, it's analyzed as a player playing scared of making an error that might trigger another outburst. A lack of offensive flow is blamed on hesitation and a fear of creative risk-taking. The team is no longer simply playing basketball. They are navigating a psychological minefield of their own making, with every loss validating the pre-game explosion and every win feeling fragile and joyless. For the front office, the path forward is now perilously narrow. The incident has drastically altered the trade deadline calculus. Acquiring a LeBron-friendly veteran might placate the star, but validate a culture of fear. Bringing in a strong, independent voice could either fix the chemistry or lead to another combustible clash. The most damning realization is that they may no longer be building a basketball team, but managing the ecosystem of a single, volatile superstar, where roster moves are less about fit and more about maintaining a fragile piece. The ultimate casualty is the season's soul. Championship aspirations, however slim, relied on a belief that the team could come together, that a switch could be flipped. The Christmas meltdown extinguished that belief. It provided incontrovertible evidence that the core issue was not tactical, but emotional and psychological. A team that has been publicly shamed by its leader and now operates in a climate of silent tension cannot summon the collective will, trust, and sacrifice needed for a playoff run. The tirade didn't just criticize their play, it effectively ended their season as a contender, exposing a rot that no strategic adjustment can cure.